Alright, guys, it's almost that special month of the year. February, the month of romance. The month of romance. All those couples out there are thinking of buying flowers, buying chocolates, maybe that extra special piece of jewelry for the woman. But I'm here to talk about sex. It was the worst intro ever. Fuck it. No, I want to talk about sex scenes in film. Look, we're all human. We all like sex. It's part of our brains. It's part of our chemistry. I want to talk about the sex scenes that I like the most in film. Alright? This is going to be the grossest episode of this garage movie reviews, garage movie thoughts. You're going to get a little unfiltered Paul. You're going to get deep into my psyche. You're going to find out, what do I like? What do I not like? What kind of weird, fucked up individual will make a video like this? Look, there's a fine line between filming a sex scene for a film and just straight up pornography. And me, what defines a good sex scene is the characters, the the lighting, the cinematography, and the conveying of that erotic emotion versus just showing sex on camera, which is what pornography is. I don't touch that stuff, pornography. That is gross. I do not condone such actions as watching pornography. Let's just get this over with. I'm regretting this already. I'm gonna go a little crazy on this list. Different sex scenes. It's gonna be a fun video. It's something a little funny. Please comment down below what's your favorite sex scene. Let's go through this list. I'm gonna start off with Do the Right Thing. Spike Lee's seminal 80s classic film Do the Right Thing about racial injustice. Do the Right Thing has an amazing sex scene with Rosie Perez, who still looks good to this date in my opinion, but in this scene, takes place on the hottest day of the summer, everyone's drenched with sweat, which is always the subject to a good sex scene, but in this particular scene, Spike Lee's character, Mooby, is rubbing an ice cube all over Rosie Perez's naked body.
That's right, take it off. Sweating.
Of course I'm sweating, you moron. It's only 100 degrees in here and shit.
And they have some good chemistry between these characters. Spike Lee is very good at making some quippy dialogue. The scene works. The lighting, the color palette, the warm colors, Rosie Perez's performance must have been a very awkward scene to film, no doubt about it. But it works. It's a good scene. It's one of the most memorable scenes of the movie, is that ice cube scene. Next, I have A History of Violence. This is starring Viggo Mortensen, directed by Cronenberg. This sex scene, it's a crazy sex scene. Viggo Mortensen and his wife have a little rocky relationship. The marriage is not doing too well, and they're about to have sex. They can't even make it up the staircase. Viggo Mortensen takes down his pants, starts doing the dirty deed. Great sex scene. If you've always wondered what Viggo Mortensen's ass looks like, might I suggest A History of Violence. And if you want to know what his cock looks like, might I suggest Captain Fantastic. But that's a different list. We're not doing the top 10 cocks, we're doing the top... Next, this is a famous sex scene. I think this is one of the most famous sex scenes in film history, and this was a very important sex scene for film history. Don't Look Back, starring Donald Sutherland, directed by the very underrated Nicholas Roeg. Don't Look Back is a horror movie, but what people got out of this film, more so than the fact that it's just an amazing film, I love that movie, the sex scene was very cutting edge for the time. The 60s transitioning into the 70s was a very interesting time. You have directors like John Waters just doing some crazy, whacked up shit that no one thought you were allowed to put on camera. And this all changed because of the release of Deep Throat, which was considered one of the first very pornographic films out there. And ever since that film came out, it kind of just opened the floodgates to whatever you want. But Nicholas Roeg didn't go down the exploitation route, he went down the more artistic route. And he showed a very artistic sex scene between Donald Sutherland's character and his wife in the film. And it's very graphic, you see everything. But this was a very, very controversial sex scene for the time. And you look at it now, it's not that much. There's probably worse out there. By those days' standards, that sex scene stands out as being pretty graphic. Good movie, by the way, Don't Look Now. This is one of my personal ones. Look, it's no secret I have a bit of a crush on Pam Grier. If you couldn't tell by the poster in the background, I have a bit of a crush on Pam Grier. Yeah. So, the movie Coffee, Pam Grier, her breakthrough film, Coffee, came out in 1973, I think. Might have to check on that one. But, there's a particular scene in this movie, which was pretty controversial as well, where Coffee is sitting around the fireplace with a person she hooked up with. In mid-conversation, pours a glass of wine on his crotch, and does the dirty deed. Great scene, I love that scene. What else? Black Swan. Look, Black Swan, it is what it is. Do I need to explain Black Swan? Guys, when that movie came out, I remember people were going crazy. Because you gotta remember, 2010, Brokeback Mountain came out, 2006-ish? And gay sex scenes weren't that big. They're pretty common now, but still now there's a bit of a more of a ooh factor to them. But back in the mid-2000s all the way to 2010 when this movie came out, lesbian and gay scenes were still pretty controversial. And they remain pretty controversial because the NPAA, is that the name of the association that does the ratings? They rank it so that a homosexual sex scene is more likely to give you an R rating than a heterosexual sex scene. But nonetheless, you had movies before this that did gay scenes. You had Brokeback Mountain, as I mentioned. Vicky Cristina Barcelona had a very controversial sex scene for the time as well. And this one I remember because I was in my teens when this movie came out, and I remember people just going crazy like, "Oh, did you see that sex scene, Mila Kunis?" But that aside, just on the character level, I really like the movie Black Swan. It's a very creepy kind of psychological horror film, and that scene really works in the movie, and the whole movie kind of just works for me. So just sexiness aside, I think it's a really well-made scene in a very well-made movie. This scene helped me go through puberty. Boogie Nights. I think Boogie Nights, the scene with Roller Girl, that was a fantastic scene.
Well, I'll pick up some for you tomorrow, son. Come here, darling. I want you to go over there and sit on the couch with Eddie.
Here we go. Are we gonna fuck?
Oh, yes.
Well, wait a minute.
I've got a brand new pair of running. Also the scene with Julianne Moore. Really awesome how Paul Thomas Anderson directed that film. He made a movie about pornography, and much of the sex involved in the film is actually not just straight up sex, but the characters are quote unquote making love. And I like to see that kind of contrast between the film genres, even though one of the genres is pornography. Very well made movie, very good sex scene. Getting into the more comedic sex scenes now, I really like the sex scene in Team America World Police. The whole film is done with puppets, directed by Trey Parker and Matt Stone, by the way, the guys who brought you South Park. And yeah, the whole movie is done with puppets, and there's a sex scene where the directors are basically free to do whatever they want. They can put the raunchiest thing on camera because it's puppets, and that's kind of a loophole in the rating system that if it's humans having sex, sure, you can't really show that, but if it's puppets, knock yourself out. And that's a movie that took advantage of that loophole and just decided to show the craziest shit there. Remaining in the vein of comedic sex scenes, Monty Python in The Meaning of Life. I love the bit where the teacher is teaching sex ed, and he starts doing the dirty deed in front of the students and giving instructions as he's doing it.
Well, I know you don't like them, but I couldn't make another excuse.
Well, it's just that I felt... Weimar! This is for your benefit. Would you kindly wake up? I've no intention of going through this all again.
I don't know if that can fly by today's standards. Having a scene where a grown man is having sex with a woman in front of a bunch of children is a pretty controversial scene to have, to say the least. But it's Monty Python, and they do it with that Monty Python charm, that wittiness, and the scene is just funny. And Monty Python in The Meaning of Life is one of my favorite comedies. It is definitely my favorite in the Monty Python film trilogy. Holy Grail, Life of Brian, and Meaning of Life is my favorite one. So that's a very good sex scene. Another one that kind of helped me go through puberty was the Rocky Horror Picture Show. The sex scene with Susan Sarandon. Touch it, touch it, touch it, touch me. I wanna feel dirty.
Touch it, touch it, touch it, touch me. I wanna be dirty. Thrill me, chill me, fulfill me. Creature of the night.
Very, very good scene. And just overall, the movie is a celebration of sex, of sexuality, whether that may be gay sex, transgenderism, the whole sexual spectrum, and that scene in particular captures that in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is why the film became such a cult classic. Other sex scenes, let's see, I have a few listed off here. Going into more horror directions here, Under the Skin, while they're not really sex scenes because we don't really see the sex occur, this movie is about an alien played by Scarlett Johansson that lures men into her house, and then she's basically a predator, so she feeds off of these men. And there's some really, really creepy visuals involving that film. It's a very difficult movie to watch. Really gets, no pun intended, under your skin. I swear I didn't go into that, but fuck. I feel like a dad right now. But yeah. No, actually I don't feel like a dad. What fucking dad would put a video of him talking about his favorite sex scenes on YouTube? Fuck it! I'm a man! Alright. But yeah, Under the Skin, remaining in the vein of horror films, Antichrist, directed by Lars von Trier, very, even by today's standards, has to be one of the most graphically sexual films I've seen, and definitely one of the goriest films I've ever seen as well. But the film opens with a couple having sex in bed, while something that really kind of gets under my skin happens, they're having sex and it's shown in graphic detail, and their kid, is left unattended, obviously. He shouldn't be attending that. But he's left unattended, and he basically accidentally commits suicide. He crawls out of his crib, goes to the window, and falls to his death, which is a very scary thought to have. And it also is a very good opening scene that's very darkly beautiful but disturbing, and it really sets the mood for the rest of the film, which is about this couple trying to get over this disturbing occurrence that just happened. So I really like that one as well. Stanley Kubrick, legendary filmmaker, is no stranger to making sex scenes, whether that may be erotic sex scenes or just disturbing sex scenes. You look at a movie like Clockwork Orange, very much a disturbing film even by today's standards. Not an easy watch to handle, given that it has to do with rape. That's like a central thing in the film. The most iconic sex scene in that, and probably one of my faves, is when they're showing it in fast motion, and they had that was a very iconic sex scene there. But another Stanley Kubrick film that has a lot of sex scenes is Eyes Wide Shut, which it goes for a different route than Clockwork Orange, but equally as disturbing when you discover there's this weird sex cult going on.
You will kindly remove your mask.
Not very pleasant to watch. You don't really see much sex, but very disturbing nonetheless. Stanley Kubrick is really good at that, and it just goes to show, look, I'm joking about sex right now, sex scenes. It's funny, you know, I'm an immature person, you talk about sex scenes. Sex, you know, it's such like a cheap thing you can do in film, and it's hard to do a sex scene. When you look at all the logistics that go into making a sex scene in film, you have to make sure the actress is comfortable. You gotta make sure the actor is comfortable. You gotta make sure that the crew is comfortable watching this. You gotta make sure that the audience interprets it correctly. You gotta make sure the writing is on point for that to happen. Because if the audience misinterprets the purpose of the sex scene, you can get in deep trouble. And it's not something that's like you get points off a review. You can actually get your movie in like pretty deep trouble, especially nowadays in the internet outrage era. Very little wiggle room for error. So while I do laugh at these sex scenes, and while I do laugh at myself for liking these sex scenes a bit too much, we shouldn't shy away from the fact that, look, a good sex scene is not cheap. It's actually an achievement on its own. Very difficult thing to pull off is what I'm saying. Not as easy as it might look. So, here's to a celebration of freedom of expression, whether that's told through explicit sexual scenes or anything else in film. We should be allowed to show anything, and as long as it's consent. There's consent to it, obviously. But, yeah, just thought it would be a fun thing since we're going into February to talk about this kind of stuff. I'm a dirty dog. I'm a dirty dog.